Hi, I'm Nick Wetta with MTYP Spark. I'm joined by Ed Baker. Ed, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. When people ask me who I am, I very often say I am an associate professor of theater at Wichita State University. But I feel like that's sort of limiting because I've sort of lived a career in show business, or a number of different careers that ended up putting me at Wichita State University as a professor of theater. So I like to say it that way instead. I teach pretty much everything that is not the cool part of theater. So no, that's not right. I teach the really cool part of theater. So that's everything that's not acting or directing or singing or dancing. I teach design technology, and I teach creativity as a part of the practice of theater.
Gotcha. So you're more like the tech side of things.
I'm the tech side of things and I'm the creativity side of things.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so the first question that I have, these are all set design and set construction based.
Cool.
Um, the first off, it's a fairly easy one. What is the most interesting set that you've worked on or designed?
Oh, wow. That's really tough. And the only reason I say it's really tough is now, one more time, ask the question again.
What is the most interesting set that you've worked on or designed?
So, what makes that tough for me is the fact that I always try to follow my curiosity to its absolute sort of widest and deepest possible extents, which means that everything is interesting to me.
Mhm.
However, I'm going to pick one that was visually, boy, I really wish I had a picture of it right now, that was visually really interesting. And that was the set for a play called, oh man, it was a musical and it's called Wild Party.
Mhm.
And the Wild Party, what we did with that, it happens in an apartment. It's an adaptation, a musical adaptation of a poem from the Jazz Age back in the early 20th century. And it takes place in an apartment, but some scenes happen in a bedroom and some scenes happen in a bathroom. And then most of it takes place in the apartment itself. So what we did is we designed an apartment that showed us the living space, the public spaces. Then when we needed to go to the private spaces, the walls of the box set, the whole wall moved out. And then we were in the bathroom with a shower, with all the things that would be in a bathroom. When we needed to go to the bedroom, the other wall would slide in and it presented us with the bedroom. But because of because the visual design of the walls was so simple, it was sort of vertical lines, because those lines were so simple, you couldn't see the joints where different set pieces would slide in and out. So it's like a uh, great big magic trick. And
Right.
that's what I found really interesting about it, was the sort of magical quality of it.
Hmm. So was it like on like hinges and rails and stuff? And did you have to push it yourselves or was it like electronic?
It was manually driven,
Uh-huh.
but one of the things that, yeah, it was manually driven. And one of the things that you have to be very sure of when you're moving in a direct line, in a straight line, is that you want to use wheels that don't pivot, right? So
Right.
the casters are rigid casters, straight casters, and they have to be perfectly aligned or the thing will sort of steer off to one side or the other. So it was a great learning experience for our students to put the casters on what appeared to be straight and in alignment, and then to work the part and see that it was steering to the right, and then go back and adjust the alignment, and then find out that it was steering a little to the left, and then right. So it was an iterative process of execution of technology that yeah, that led to a lot of learning, right?
Gotcha.
And a lot of sort of developing a process for the next time we do this, how can we do it that it won't take all this adjustment, that we'll
Mhm.
know that it's in alignment. So it was really, yeah, magical in that way too.
That sounds like a really cool set.
It
Um,
was.
the next question I have is, what are in your opinion the most important skills for a set designer to have?
Hmm. I'm going to go back to curiosity. So uh, there's the literal part of my brain that wants to say, oh, well, drawing, painting, that sort of thing. But I have to go back to curiosity and to creativity. Those are the two greatest skills that I believe are required for a scenic designer, a sound designer, any designer, costume, lights, anybody, because we are working generally with a script that's on paper, and it's really just words.
Mhm.
And we have to take those out of that book and then create create a world inside of our heads, whether that is the scenic world, the way it's lighted, what people are wearing, or how it sounds. We have to create that world in our heads and then get it out of there and onto the stage. So I'm going to say that the greatest skills, definitely curiosity and creativity. After
That's
that,
good.
there's drawing, all that stuff. But
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I wouldn't really think of curiosity. Creativity is one that I think anyone would think of when they think of a designer, but I mean, it makes sense when you think about it, but it's not really curiosity isn't really the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of a designer in any fashion.
yeah, and curiosity, you know, in the gospel according to Ed, and that's all I'm speaking from, right? I'm sorry, it's the ancient and sacred book of the Ed, uh, which is the only thing I have to work with, right? My brain. Uh, Curiosity is is the uh, is the leading part of creativity. If you're not creative, if you're not curious about something, how are you going to be creative with regards to it? You know.
Right.
So yeah.
No, that makes perfect sense. The next question is kind of the same as the last one, but it's what are in your opinion the most important skills for a set builder to have? So someone like working on the set.
Wow, that's so the greatest part of my life. And when I say the greatest, I mean like the greatest. It's the best things I've done in my life, and also sort of the most things that I've done in my life in the theater have been the construction parts. Uh, so again, it it would be easy for me to say, oh, well, you got to be big and strong so you can carry lumber, and you got to have big hands so you can swing a hammer and all that. I'm I'm gonna go I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with curiosity. I don't mean to sort of feel like I'm always running home uh, to one topic, but the fact of the matter is, uh, when I am building scenery or when I'm creating a specific prop for a show, what I'm doing is starting with a two-dimensional drawing and then attempting to bring that into a three-dimensional life.
Mhm.
So what I'm doing is I'm solving three-dimensional problems of the set out of a two-dimensional world. And it's sort of like that, bringing the idea for the set out of your head and getting it onto paper. Then the next step, the construction, getting it off the paper and into the world, is all about problem solving.
Mhm.
And without creativity, which begins with curiosity, I
Mhm.
can't, uh, I may be able to make something that looks like the set. For instance, uh, if I'm asked to build a simple box set that is a kitchen, I know I'm going to need a refrigerator and a stove and a sink and a dishwasher. I mean, if it's my house, it has to have a dishwasher. Uh, I'm going to need the cabinets, you know, and a lighting fixture and a door to come in and a door to go out. I know I'm going to need those things. Oh, and a window over the sink, because when I wash the dishes, I want to look out the sink, you know, when the dishwasher's not working. Uh, when it comes to all of those things, uh, it's easy for me to just reflect back. What I was describing was on the other side of that wall in my house, my kitchen.
Mhm.
However, my kitchen may not be the kitchen that's in this set. It may be a whole different world. So I need that creativity and I need that curiosity about, well, what does the kitchen look like in a cheap apartment in Cleveland, Ohio, if
Mhm.
that's where the play is set? I have to think not about my kitchen, but about any possible kitchen. And then specifically, what's the kitchen for this play?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'm going to go back to curiosity and creativity, man. And then, of course, you do have to be physically strong enough to do the things,
right.
uh, sort of mentally alert enough to maintain focus and not get hurt, you know, all of those
Yeah.
things. Yeah. If you ask me the most important tool, that's the most important tool in your scene shop.
Right. That makes sense. Um, oh, I just had a question that I thought of that I forgot.
Sorry, I talk a lot.
No, it's okay. Oh, so with acting and singing and stuff, um, the actors put like parts of themselves into their performance. Is that something that set designers and set builders do, or is it more just going for historical accuracy and not putting any of yourself into the set?
There is you use the phrase historical accuracy.
Mm,
So I'm going to talk about two things. One is historical accuracy, and the other is truthfulness. And it seems like those two things should be sort of the same.
mhm.
But what is historically accurate is not necessarily what is truthful with regards to a play that we're presenting in 2021.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, it would be easy to go to a history book and just look at how everything, Robert Johnson died in 1938. So if I was doing a play about Robert Johnson, the great blues singer, I might want to design a bar room where he's going to play music. And it would be very easy to look at historical documentation and old catalogs. And that's valuable research, and create a space that would be just like that, Delta of Mississippi uh, bar room for this play to be set in. But 100 years have been going by. Well, not 100, but 80 years have gone by since then. And those 80 years are important to us because we're living in the now. So while I would not put that noisy cell phone in there, I might put something in that space that wouldn't really be there. A payphone. There were no payphones back then. Actually, there were payphones. They didn't look like what we think of as a payphone. But you
Mhm.
get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
So
kind of like a mix of the two.
yeah, I look for the truth in that space rather than necessarily the historical accuracy of it.
Right.
And when I do that, I'm always putting a little bit of myself into it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. No, yeah, that makes a lot more sense than what I had going on in my head. Um next question I have is how do you start designing a show or like coming up with a design?
So I have a process that I follow. And the very first step of that process is committing to it. I can't commit to that project until I've read the script. So I
Mhm.
do the first read of the script. I don't worry about how many walls there are. I don't worry about how many doors. I don't worry about if it has to rain on stage. I don't worry, right? I don't worry about all that sort of what we think of as the technical stuff. I just read the story. Is it a story that I can get behind? Is it a story that I'm going to enjoy spending the next few weeks with? Is it a story that, right? Is it a story that is acceptable to me? Right? Can I work with it?
Mhm.
uh, Mentally, emotionally, spiritually? Is it something that I'm not going to be embarrassed to be a part of? Yeah. So I have to commit to it first. And after that, I start reading the script minimum of 3 times because I do want to read it just for that story, just to find out if it's something that's going to appeal to me. Then I need to read it for, well, when does it happen and where does it happen? Asking all those W's, right? And the H, how, but right, when, where, what, how, why. I have to answer all those questions. And then on the third reading, which may not be the last, but on the third reading, while I'm reading it, I have the legal pad and the pen beside me. Okay, the truth is I don't use that anymore. I open it on 2 screens and I use a spreadsheet, but you get what I'm saying. And
Yeah.
now I write down everything that I come across. Page 1, Act 1, Scene 1. We are in a bar in the Mississippi Delta where people go after a long day's work. Ah, I need to write that down. We are in a, right? A
Right.
blues joint, whatever it is. And I write down every single thing. Robert Johnson sits on a bar stool. We need a bar stool. He has his feet up on a nail barrel. We need a nail barrel. I write down all that stuff. And that's really that's the beginning of the process. If I start designing, hi, this is my cat. This is Professor Lupin. He comes in for lecture sometimes. Uh, if I start trying to design before I'm familiar with what's needed, I'm not going to solve problems for the production. I'm just going to create more.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't, at least me personally, I never think of how thorough all of the designers have to be to create an amazing show. I always knew that people on crew most of the time do a lot more work than actors, but I've come to terms with that. Um, but I never really, I guess it never or clicked in my head like just how much work goes into especially designing lights or the set or the sound of a show. So I guess I don't know. It's very thorough. Sounds like.
Yeah. It's so there's a thing. So I also perform,
Mhm.
and one of the things that I sometimes hear and have heard in my lifetime is we rehearse as performers. We rehearse not for that easy audience that's right there with us, and they're really involved and they they'll respond to everything and they'll laugh at the jokes and they'll cry when the sad parts happen and they'll clap when we get to the end of the scene. We don't rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse for that easy audience. All of that rehearsal is for the tough audience, the ones that had a long work day, the ones that came into the theater and they're tired and they need us to sort of pull them into the story.
Mhm.
That's who we rehearsed all that time for. And I kind of feel the same way about thorough research and sort of the hard work of design. There are going to be those people who come in and they're just ready for the story and they're going to follow it. There are some people who are not ready for the story, or they worked hard all day and they're really tired. And they're going to need some help with, what is that story? Where does this take place? Oh, this clearly takes place in the South. These people are very poor. Oh, this is a long time ago because look, uh, they don't have a regular payphone. They have one of those old antique ones. Get what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those I'm solving those problems for the folks who had a tough day before they came to the theater.
Hmm. Yeah, I've never even heard that for what the actors, like why the actors are rehearsing. So I came in here wanting to learn about set design and set construction, and I've learned something about acting,
There
learning
you go.
all sorts of new things. Um, the last question that I have is, what would you consider the most important aspect that goes into designing a set? Is it the research or the making sure the set is safe for people to use, or what would you think?
So I'm going to rank these. I'm just going to go down a list of things.
Mhm.
The first is consideration of the stage. What will fit on that stage, right? Because it's got to
Makes
go
sense.
in that stage.
Mhm.
The space that we're going to perform in is the first thing that I have to consider. Then next is probably going to be the story. No. Next is going to be safety. So as I'm thinking about that space, what the stage is like, how the set is going to fit in there, and I start thinking about what do we want 2 levels? Is there going to be a big platform 8 feet off the stage? Is it going to be light enough in there for people to see? But is the angle of the lighting going to blind the people that are 8 feet up on the platform, and now they're not going to feel safe walking around?
Mhm.
So yeah, the space itself, and then safety, and then the story. And along with the story, I'm going to consider safety. Uh, Once we're telling the story, and once we know what the story is, and we're telling it through the scenery, then it's going to be about focus. What scenes will take part on what parts of the stage, and how will the eye of the audience be drawn from one place to another, and how are actors going to get up to that level, down to this level, over to that side, and over to that side, and how are they going to do it safely? Yeah. So those, I would say that going in order, those are the way that's the way that I have to consider the
Mhm.
space.
Right. Awesome. Well, that concludes my questions. Thank you, Ed, for being here. If you want to find out more about Ed, he's a professor at WSU. Um, Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nick. This has been great.